Hey guys, the Marilyn Manson case against Evan Rachel Wood should settle. That's right, I said it. And I think that opinion will unify Manson and Wood fans to come together and say, how dare you? But you know, sometimes in litigation, the time to settle is when both sides have a reason to be happy and also unhappy. Settlements in civil litigation are sometimes friendly enough, but generally they're not like a final car deal where negotiation where everybody leaves pretty happy. Consider the Bianco litigation. Do you think anybody on either side was ecstatic about that? It's how they pictured it would end. Any photos of Bianco and Manson cutting a cake together, celebrating a mutually satisfactory ending to the litigation? You know, litigation wears on the people involved. The stress of the process, the cost of the process, and the uncertainty of how it all ends become bigger factors and help generate settlements that weren't possible early in the case. Don't believe me? Check the stats. Most case settles. Almost all serious cases. But of course, not all of them. I said almost. Take the recent Gwyneth Paltrow case as an example, or of course, Depp versus Heard. So I'm not saying Manson should agree with what I'm about to say, or Wood, or Gore, or you, but still, things are at a crossroads with Manson not yet having filed his appeal and Wood and Gore not yet having filed their motion to tax him with attorney's fees. So let's take a look. Here's my proposed settlement. Mutual releases, no more lawsuits for past stuff. No forward releases for future defamation and stuff, just to make that clear, that there won't be any trash talking against the other side. It's not true. Parties walk away paying their own cost, and that's it. And here's my case for that. For Manson's side to settle, the bad. He's lost very significant parts of his case. His chances on appeal they're not excellent. He could lose more of the case before he goes to trial because the judge has signaled skepticism of holding Wood in by conspiracy. So now he faces a truncated case. His costs continue to rise. If he appeals, that's expensive too. And guess what? He's now on the hook for Wood and Gore's attorney's fees because of the anti-slapp ruling. And if he appeals and loses, he may find himself paying their fees for the appeal too. It goes from very expensive to very, very expensive. The odds of getting a money award from this case that really comes out to the good are becoming lower. And if the case is truncated and Wood's out of it, can he really advance his narrative that he was set upon by the defendants in a way that will sway the public needle anymore? I mean, have you seen social media? All right, so that's the doom and gloom of the continuing litigation for Manson. What's the good part? Manson's anti-slapp loss, well, that was swept right off the headlines by Wood's loss of custody. Or she gave up custody of her son back to Los Angeles because she's afraid for her son because of Manson, who is in Los Angeles. Yeah, right. Try as they might, Wood's PR team can't sell that beyond her ardent fans. Right now, even Fox News is pro-Manson on this point. Also, Wood did not file a claim against Manson in the suit, a counterclaim. She lobbied for a statute of limitation change. It got changed. She's already in litigation with him. If she has the evidence against him, why not blow him out of the water in the litigation by bombing him with a counterclaim? I mean, he said that it was all made up. She's going to fight against that. Why not throw in this evidence now and put liability back on Manson? Well, Manson fans are ready with an answer for that because it's BS. Now, I'm not saying it's BS or not, but I am saying when you forgo the chance to file this counterclaim, you say you can prove in litigation, even in criminal court, you got that much evidence, and this is litigation you're already in. When you don't do that, you hand the other side the narrative that maybe your claim isn't so good at all. That's pretty pro-Manson, right? Now, she does have some reasons to not file this claim, and I'll get into that on why she should settle, but let's finish up with Manson here, his side. Why should he end this case if he can? So the lawsuit has not gone well, but the PR side for Manson right now is freaking great. If this lawsuit is something Manson cares deeply about on an individual level to see to the end, yeah, keep going. But if it was part of his team's overall strategy to defend him and show his side of the story by initiating this lawsuit, it might have served his purpose, especially after the anti-slapp defeat. Going on means a year-long appeal with nothing else happening except bills increasing and probably a losing appeal. Now, his litigators are fighters, just like the ones for Wood and Gore, but they're also deal makers and they're pragmatic. They all are. And they know that a jury verdict for their client and for every other person involved in the case is a risky proposition. If you can get where you need to be without having to go there, then that's what you do. So if something short of a verdict can fit in his team's strategy, this might be the time. I mean, when would be the better time? He got to tell his story. He gets out of this not having to pay Wood and Gore's legal bills, and he can stop his own legal expenses and avoid this thing dragging on for at least 2 more years with an appeal and then slow litigation after that, only to not be able to present the claims he wanted in the first place, probably. And, if he or the defendants, if they defame each other in the future and do something else bad, well, they can all just tee it up again, right? So now let's look at Wood's side. She doesn't really want to be in this litigation with Manson. Her decision not to file a counterclaim, I think, shows that. That's my opinion. So if you don't want to be in litigation, that probably means you want to be out of the litigation. You do that by settling, usually. See, as I've said, if she did file a counterclaim, I think she'd be open to a wide range of topics that her team has managed to restrict Manson on, but he'd be able to defend himself if she filed a counterclaim, and that's pretty broad. She got a lot of doors closed with her anti-slapp victory. It was great lawyering. Filing a counterclaim would likely open those doors again, at least to some degree, but giving up the counterclaim is going to haunt her the rest of this litigation. And it means not having a weapon against the other side, Manson, that if you're a defendant, you usually want to have potential liability. I mean, look at Paltrow's case where she countersued for $1 and won, and she could have put her attorney's fees on this dude. So if you have a counterclaim, generally speaking, you want to file that counterclaim. Even Heard filed her counterclaim and won on one of them. So it's generally a tool. If you're the defense attorney, you're going to want to have that in your arsenal if you're a civil attorney, to say, look, I'm really the aggrieved one here, but the cost on them, because if nothing else, even if you don't win it, it can push a case towards settlement because now the plaintiff faces some liability. So anyway, if she really wants to be done with Manson, and isn't that what it looks like, ending this lawsuit is obviously a major part of it. Sure, he can say, she never showed I did wrong to her, and she can say, he never proved I was in a conspiracy to hurt him, and everyone's fans can just stay in their echo chamber and believe what they want to believe, but she gets to move on with life, which I think would be a big positive for her as well as for Manson and Gore. Even though she gives up recovering fees on the motion and the appeal for Manson, if she did win there, she gives up on not having to front those fees in the first place, and also not having all the fees associated that couldn't be taxed to Manson associated with the case, and additional years of litigation. So there's a lot of costs she's yet to absorb that she could not have to deal with if she deals with the sunk cost now. So I don't have any particular insight into Gore's mind, but I would think similarly, I mean, hasn't she moved all the way across the country, that she'd really want, for several reasons, for this not to be happening right now, to not be in litigation as a defendant in this case by Manson. I mean, you can imagine some of those reasons, but some of them are things we've already said. And, why would she want to be in this? I think she would not want to be in it. So I think both sides have good reasons to make this the time to settle if they're ever going to settle. Again, they don't have to. It's their choice. But how's it going to get better? Every moment that passes is just more time and money down the drain. And you really have to consider if you think that in the end will be worth it, right? So are they one talented mediator away from this thorn being removed from all their paws? Or should the fight continue? Now, you know what I think. What do you think? Well, that's it. Bye.